All right, what's up, y'all? This is the Jaron Ikner show. Sorry, it took me a second to kind of like lock in for a second, but we are here. We're doing things a little bit different this time. We are going on multiple platforms right now. Right now, we're on Kick. We're trying Kick out for the first time, and then we're also doing the vertical streaming on YouTube because that's where the hot shit is at. Apparently, people are like, vertical streaming is where it's at. So that's what we're doing. So welcome to the Drawn Etner Show. This is my somewhat weekly show. I'm very inconsistent. I'm trying to be better about it. I know, but it is what it is. And essentially, we just talk about things that I like to talk about. I'm a musician. I'm a rapper. I like to make music. I like to make art. Multimedia artist. Been doing it for a very long time. And this is my show, y'all. I'm here to talk to you about a variety of different things. Got a long litany of stuff. If you're watching this on Kick, make sure you follow, hit the like. I don't even know how Kick works, honestly. So, help me out over here, kickers. What are kick people called? Are they called kickers? I'm gonna call y'all kickers. So all my kickers over here, if you're watching this, do whatever you need to do to make me famous over here on Kick. I don't know what buttons you gotta push or emojis you gotta make fly on the screen, but do that. And I was told to go vertical. If I'm wrong about that, because I guess you get paid less if you go vertical, or get paid more if you go vertical versus thing. We're trying a vertical thing. But with that said, we are recording the episode in 16:9 that will be posted on the YouTube channel so you guys can watch it in its full glory, edited with special effects, all kinds of stuff like that. With that said, we got plenty to talk about. I'm trying to keep this episode under an hour. We'll see what happens because I'm going to be ranting about a few things. I'd be ranting. The first thing I want to talk about is this Young Thug situation and the crux that is hip hop culture and how it is being perceived by different generations. And a lot of interesting things are happening right now as a result of this revelation that Young Thug is basically snitching on everybody. So essentially, Young Thug's out here, as you know, this is the longest trial in the history of trials, went down, and Young Thuggerton essentially was exposed in phone calls for essentially snitching on people. He also called out Kendrick Lamar for not collaborating, which apparently Kendrick Lamar like preemptively dissed him on Squabble Up. If you actually listen to the lyrics of Squabble Up, apparently he already knew that this was coming. So the lyrics that they're going viral right now from Squabble Up apparently are directly about Young Thug. When you apply the situation and look at it from a zoomed out view, it's like, oh, Kendrick saw this coming. So with that in mind, there's a lot of energy around snitch culture that is somewhat toxic and then also somewhat accurate. Now, when it comes to hip hop in general and like what we're doing with hip hop and what hip hop actually means to people, snitch culture is bad. The whole idea is that you don't talk to the police, you don't talk to the feds, you don't talk to the government. You only keep within your community. Any justice that happens in any situation is usually street justice, in the sense that if someone wrongs somebody, it's going to be solved by the crux of street justice, meaning that eye for eye, Hammurabi's Code type beat. And that's kind of like where hip hop like kind of peaked at with snitch culture, where it's like, the idea that snitches get stitches. If you snitch, then you're a bad person and you are exiled from hip hop. And or if you work in that field, and I'll get to that because I'm talking about someone in particular, you may know who I'm talking about. Or if you work in that field, or if you fraternize with any type of government official outside of like politicians, I guess politicians is the real pass. But if you're fraternizing with like the chief of police or anything like that, then you are seen a certain way by hip hop culture. And this is only up to a certain point. And I think that the shifting point when it came to like that culture being more and more accepted comes down to Rick Ross. And with Rick Ross, as you know, or maybe you don't know, because I don't know like how well they did at suppressing things, but Rick Ross used to be a CEO, and he raps about it and addresses it on his album. But photos came out of this man basically, working at as a correctional officer in Florida, I believe. Full photos of him suited up, And the backlash was that, at least initially, was that that's not cool in hip hop. You can't work as a correctional officer or work as an arm of the law and then expect to get a pass in hip hop. But that's not actually the case, because what ends up happening with Rick Ross is still around. He wasn't exiled from hip hop. I think the most that he really got from that was the clash of 50 Cent around that time, who did some pretty dirty stuff with him in terms of like Rick Ross's baby mom and all that. But that's a whole different video. But beyond that, there wasn't really much backlash in the grand scheme of things from Rick Ross being discovered to be a correctional officer before he became a rapper. And so that, in my head, was kind of like the shifting point where this culture was being more and more accepted. And Rick Ross kind of played it off to where he was like, oh, well, that was just a life before I became a rapper. It was a different world. I had to feed my kids, to feed my family. I had to do what I had to do. And it wasn't like he was saying that he was like a corrupt correctional officer, like sliding drugs to people or anything like that. Like, no, he seemed to like do his job and then like quit. And then at some point in time, he decided that he was going to start flipping bricks and become a rapper. I don't know if he actually does flip bricks or is even involved in that. But that's part of the perception, especially when he came out with Every Day I'm Hustling and his album Port of Miami that had this whole like Scarface drug overlord tone to it, right? And so it gets confusing a little bit, because when you dive into the history of Rick Ross, you see that no, you did work as a correctional officer. You did operate under the eye of the law, and you abide by the law. And I mean, to me in particular, like me personally, I don't necessarily care. But I guess the caring comes in the fact that people don't understand that it's about the story, right? Like, what story are you trying to convey? Are you trying to tell people who look up to you that, hey, you can be whatever you want to be? If you want to be a drug lord or a famous rapper or a correctional officer in the same lifetime, you can do that, right? That's the motivational aspect of it, right? But then there's also a bit of integrity, right? Like, if you're over here rapping about these things, but your previous life dictates that that's not the case, then there's a little bit of dissonance there that I think that people are kind of overlooking with that. Or maybe they're not. I just know that Rick Ross basically survived that, right? And that was the first time that we saw that culture and that idea in hip hop, which, like I said, is very anti-law, very anti-government, very anti-establishment, except a top-tier rapper, because at the time, and I mean, I still consider Rick Ross to be one of the A-tier rapper, he still is operating and doing his thing pretty much with no change, right? Like, he's just operating in a way that works. And so, analyzing all this and breaking all this down, I start to see this shift with him. Now, I'm sure there's other smaller instances, but the next big instance that comes to mind is Tekashi 6ix9ine, famously, right? Tekashi 6ix9ine famously being called a rat for coming out and snitching on his crew and a bunch of people so he can skate and get out of jail. He was facing a bunch of jail time. He basically gave up the whole crew, et cetera, and so forth. And that gets a little bit more complicated when you actually break down the details of that story and like why it came to that point. And that's kind of like where I'm trying to get to with this whole topic of Young Thug, in the sense that, like, there's some situations where I might be snitching, dog. There might be some situations where I can't sit here and be like, oh, I'm never gonna rat. I'm never gonna talk to the law. I'm never gonna be talking to the government. Especially if the person that wronged me, right? And especially if the situation is kind of messed up, right? Now, I'm not a hood nigga, so I'm not out here like enacting street justice. I got shooters if I need them, but I've never had to enact them, right? But the point is that, like, I'm not the type to like go enact street justice. I'd rather see you in court. And that's just like my vibe on that. But when it comes to talking to law enforcement, there's really no reason. First of all, you should know the law. I think that's the first thing, was where people get messed up, is that, like, people be snitching because cops be coercing, they be lying to you, and then they put you in situations where you feel pressure that you have to give up information. But you should be lawyering up. And you should getting a good lawyer and letting that lawyer help you navigate how to talk to the system that is trying to shut you down. That's part of it. But if you are already hemmed up and in a situation where it's like, oh, give up all your homies and we let you go, I don't know. What's the situation? What are the details? And there's some people who have stayed down, who have not said a single word, because there's a little bit of loyalty there. There's moralistic code, things like that. But then there's also situations where it's like the person who the pressure is on to give up the information might need to give up that information. And one of my clients, I do like a lot of video work for like a lot of clients in the area I work at. One of my clients is a private investigator, so I have like a lot of conversations with them about talking with different clients, the concept of snitching, et cetera, so forth. And they were like, you know what? Sometimes you might need to give up that information. Like, it depends on what you really value, especially if your family's on the line, your finances on the line, your career is on the line. Like, you might need to give up some information. You know what I'm saying? Now, with that said, like, should you just be throwing people under the bus just because you're out here being a rat? No. I think that's also moralistically wrong, and it's not fair to all parties involved. But it's also case by case. So when you take a look at this Young Thug situation, or actually let's back up, take a look at the Tekashi 6ix9ine situation. Tekashi 6ix9ine's gang was like basically actively trying to get this dude, take him out. And there's multiple instances where he almost got taken out. And the powers that be that were working around Tekashi 6ix9ine essentially were against him. Like, they were not on his side. And they basically painted him to be this person and kind of painted him to be the fall guy. And so in that situation, I might be giving up some names, like dead ass. Like, I'm not over here trying to justify his actions, but it's like, if the entire team that was supposed to be my team was actually conspiring against me, and they put all these things and moved all these pieces in order and made me the fall guy for their actions, and I don't have any loyalty to them because clearly they didn't want me to be here in the first place, I might be giving up your name, bro. I might be giving up your name. You know what I'm saying? And the thing about that is that because of the precursor of Rick Ross and the idea that this is okay a little bit if you're protecting your family and protecting your life, Tekashi 6ix9ine kind of got a pass. Some people say he got a pass, but I don't really think that he did, because his career never returned to the same level of success that it was before all this happened. And then there's also the idea that when it comes to snitch culture, it kind of puts you in a box to where people don't trust you, because shady shit be going on in hip hop and the music industry in general. Just in general, like gang activity, RICO, all that stuff. That's actually real stuff. That's why the police and the law goes after that, because those are things that be happening. And so if you're deep into that and you don't trust your team, then you're basically setting yourself up for disaster. That's basically what happened with Tekashi 6ix9ine, is that his team was not trustworthy. And so he ended up in a situation where he's like literally just like, well, I guess it's me against them. What else are you going to do? Right? So, and like I said, I'm not trying to give this man a pass. I'm not over here like, oh, Tekashi 6ix9ine deserves all of the love and respect because of this, right? But it's interesting that he is popping out right now because of this Young Thug situation. So I actually have a video on my YouTube channel, one that's going viral, of Tekashi 6ix9ine like basically talking shit about Young Thug and being like, oh, there's a hypocrisy going on, et cetera, so forth. And he's right about that to a degree, because we're watching everybody kind of like shit on Young Thug. Oh, is my sound all jacked up? Hold on 1 second. Dang. Oh, sorry. I guess my sound's all fucked up on Kick. Hold on a second. I didn't do that right. Is it? I can't even tell. I was doing some weird stuff over here on Kick. That's weird. So maybe we shut down the Kick thing real quick, because I don't know what's going on over here. Maybe. Actually, I don't know. It sounds like it's working. I don't even know. I'm going to leave it on. I don't know. Fuck it. I think we're good. We'll watch it back. Anyways, I got super distracted with that because I wasn't making sure that I sounded good for y'all. And it's over here like shh, 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 shh. I never used Kick before, but I've been reading on the interwebs that Kick is where it's at right now. So I figure we give it a try. I don't know if I'm a fan of it yet, though. I don't know if I'm a fan of it yet. We'll see. We'll probably give it a couple iterations and see what's going on. But anyways, to continue my thought process, when it comes to Tekashi 6ix9ine, like, some of his actions were basically justified when it comes to like protecting yourself, as is the like core of snitch mentality to begin with. Like, if you're snitching, you're protecting yourself. It's self-preservation. Like, or it's revenge. But most of the time, it's self-preservation. Like, I need to protect my family, I need to protect me. And so most of the time, like, in that sense, especially if it's somebody that like you don't really fuck with, or someone that's been like out here trying to like block your shine or whatever, or shut down your family, or try to harm you, then there's like a bit of like, okay, maybe I should actually like put him under the bus, or however you want to see that. And that, I don't know. I don't know. I've never been really in a situation where I've had to worry about this, but I understand it from both sides of the party. So when you look at Young Thug situation, right? Everybody's talking about Young Thug. They're like, oh, he's a snitch. All this stuff's coming out, et cetera, so forth. And he's getting a lot more scrutiny than Tekashi 69 has. And I might be wrong about that. If I'm wrong, please let me know. But I believe that Tekashi 69 is getting a lot less scrutiny than what Young Thug's getting. And there's a lot to unpack there. I think there's a little bit of racism there. I think there's a little bit of like level of position of where you're at and like who's behind you. Because if you look at Gunna, right? And I think that's like kind of the elephant of the room in this conversation is Gunna, right? Gunna got off like midway through the trial because he gave up a lot of information, and this dude has dropped several albums. I've been seeing all kinds. Gunna's been doing very well for himself. In fact, I would argue that Gunna might be the most successful snitch rapper of all time, whatever that means, right? He was able to basically, say what he needed to say about his homies. He got off, started dropping projects. Now, Young Thug is off, and all this information coming out about him basically being like, oh, well, so-and-so, 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 right? Basically giving up a bunch of names. He's scot-free now. Longest trial ever, but he's out now, free on his own reconnaissance. And now everybody's being like, oh, well, Young Thug is trash, Young Thug's a snitch, Young Thug's a snitch. And it's like, maybe, yes. I mean, there's clear evidence that he is because you have the phone conversations, right? So, yes. But at the same time, and I think this is where the scrutiny comes in because you look at the positions, right? Young Thug is the leader and the CEO and the captain of YSL. Like, he is the boss. That is his squad and his team. Meaning that you're kind of the fall guy. When you put yourself in that position where you are going to, take this whole record label on and start pushing artists, and then there might be some gang activity going on, there might be some money laundering going on, there might be some drug activity going on, and you're the fall guy for that. It all comes back to you. And so, with that said, as a fall guy, there's also a certain level of like, well, hey, as the fall guy, I should be able to have the responsibility to see these things coming and prepare for them accordingly. But you're the one that hired all these people. Everybody that's around you, you're responsible for in one way or another, whether it's like putting money in their pocket or giving them opportunities or putting them in different positions. Like, you're the one that's responsible for that. So the scrutiny behind that is a lot different than a Tekashi 69 or a Gunna. Tekashi 69 was always a pawn. He was always kind of set up to be that way. A lot of that might have to do with race if you want to break that down, but race plays a major role in that. And that goes back to something that I'm told by my mom all the time, is that if you're black in this country, you have to work 3 times, 4 times as hard to get in the same position as someone who is not black. And with that in mind, that means you get 4 times the amount of scrutiny. It means you get 4 times the amount of people getting all up in your shit. Even with the Diddy situation, you look at what's happening with Diddy, and they got all up in the shit. It wasn't about the RICO, but they were like, oh, you're doing all these sex crimes. We might as well throw RICO in there too, because we might find something, right? That wouldn't be the case with, like, I don't know, Post Malone or something like that, right? Like, that wouldn't be the case because the scrutiny is a lot higher. So if you're in a position of power and you're in a position of winning and you're in a position of like being that dude, you're going to get scrutinized, and anything you say is going to be dissected. And that's what you're seeing with Young Thug, who was the leader of YSL. So that scrutiny is a little bit justified because it's like, dude, you're the boss. Like, you're literally like the one that should have been like managing all this. And if you did it properly, we wouldn't be here, right? You wouldn't be in a situation if you were a better boss. It doesn't matter what Gunna did. It doesn't matter what whoever else said. It matters what you said, because this is your shit. Like, if OVO got hit with a RICO, Drake's the fall guy. It's not going to be Majid Jordan or anybody else on his label. It's going to be Drake. If TDE gets hit with a lawsuit, it's going to go to Top Dog. He's going to be the fall guy. And so that's what happens when you're in a position of power, is that you kind of have to accept that for what it is. Because if you don't, the crap's gonna hit the fan and you're gonna look goofy. And that's basically what's happening with Young Thug, is that like he's kind of not accepting that. Like if I were Young Thug, I probably would be like, yeah, I did that. I did what I had to do to, one, keep myself alive and keep myself out of jail so I can continue to help the streets and continue to help these rappers and continue, because Young Thug is an extremely influential rapper. He's put on many people. He's put a lot of people in a lot of positions to win. He's one of the most respected artists in Atlanta up until this point. And so my point, my stance would be like, I'm trying to maintain that. Like, I'm not a thug, even though my name is Young Thug, and that's a different conversation. I'm not what you think I am. I am a community leader. I do believe on standing on the right side of justice. I do believe in making sure that things fall right for people, regardless of the actions. And I believe that people should be responsible for their actions and for the consequences. So there are people on my team doing shady shit and out here like, RICOing and trafficking and doing gang activity, and I don't approve of that, then I need to be like, that's them, right? Because I'm a businessman. I'm on top of the totem pole, and I need to make sure that whatever happens here, it does not make everything else collapse around me. That's the position that Young Thug is in. Tekashi was not in that position. Gunna was not in that position. And so I look at it a little bit different, because it's like, dude, he has an empire, an enterprise that he has to maintain. And if he doesn't maintain that empire or enterprise, it's all going to fail. It's literally that simple. It will all fail if he does not maintain his enterprise. And I think that the scrutiny comes down to like old head mentality. Basically what I was talking about in the beginning of this video, where it's like, oh, well, you gotta stick to the street code. You got to stick to the streets. You can't be out here snitching and talking to the police. And it's like, no, you're right. I mean, it's at the police, right? I don't think that we should be out here gallivanting and bumping fists and doing shoots and all that with the police either. But if some crime goes down in my neighborhood and it's something that's affecting my neighborhood, and I know that my neighbors aren't going to do anything about it, then I'm just saying. And I could rant about this all day, because I think that I see both sides of the argument. Trust me, I'm black in America. I see both sides of the argument. But I think there's a little bit of unfairness that comes down to Young Thug's situation, who has been on trial for like 8 years now, damn near. And the scrutiny behind him and the hypocrisy that doesn't seem to vibe as well when it comes to looking at other people like Gunna, like Tekashi, like Rick Ross. Now, Rick Ross is not a snitch, at least not publicly anyways. It's kind of a different discussion. But the idea with Rick Ross is the concept that, he's on that. He at some point in time was playing for the other team. And that's not cool for some people, for a lot of people. And so what I think about a lot when it comes to these situations, because we're going to segue into the next thing, is Drake. Because right now, it seems as though the rumor mills, everybody's talking about Drake going back in. Drake's about to go and diss Kendrick, maybe even tonight if you're watching this live. And I don't know, man. I feel like this is over a year later. We're still talking about this confrontation between Kendrick and Drake. And I feel like when it comes to the situation, that Drake might be just a little bit butthurt. And that might be obvious. That might be kind of obvious, right? But a lot of it, for me, is the idea that he doesn't have anybody in his corner telling him not to do this. And there's so many other things that Drake could be doing right now. And that's the thing, like, it's clear that it hit him so deeply, and he feels like he has to get his get back with Kendrick, because if he doesn't get his get back, his legacy might be compromised, which is kind of true, maybe, but I still think he's going to sell billions of records. I still think that he's going to be wildly successful. So it's kind of hard to like really frame that in a way that like makes sense to me, because it's like, if you look at his numbers and you look at his status, he's still killing it. So it's like, where is the issue that you're having, dude? Like, why are you so like in your britches about making sure that this man we're talking about Kendrick, gets a get back, right? Why are we so concerned? Like if he drops another diss track tonight or any type of subliminals towards Kendrick, it's gonna look goofy. It's just gonna look goofy. It's gonna be like, dude, like what are we doing? Like we are past that. Right now we're talking about, I don't know, clips. We're talking about I don't know, JID. We're talking about all these great projects that are coming out, and we're trying to move forward to like better stuff. But you're still stuck on like, oh, I need to be talking about Kendrick, or I need to remind you that I'm that dude. And the thing about it is that like you just need to drop good music, dude. If you just drop good music, you'll be fine. Let the music speak for itself, and let the music take control. Because Drake is a good musician. Drake does make good music. But the problem is that it's like almost like he like forgot that. Because even the last few songs that he put out are kind of like, oh, this is it's a little aggressive. It's a little unnecessary. Why are we doing all that? Why are we going this route? And like I said, I think there's a little bit of shame there. I think there's a little bit of embarrassment there, which is understandable because dude got cooked. And this is from somebody who likes Family Matters. I think Family Matters is it's like probably one of the best diss tracks of all time, honestly. And it's like my second favorite song, besides Euphoria, from that era. So it's like, what are we like? What's the ultimate goal here, dude? Like, you actually already proven that you can go toe to toe with someone like Kendrick Lamar. Now you might not have, if things went different in terms of how songs came out and how people how the rollout happened, like because basically Kendrick stole Drake's playbook. He just did it a little bit better. If the tracks came out in a different order, we'd be having a different conversation. I think that's where Drake feels it a little bit, because he's like, oh well, I didn't do it right. And he wants to, that's why he keeps like hinting at round 2, and he keeps saying all these things that's like, dude, we don't need that. Like, just go back to doing what you were doing, and most of your fans aren't going to care. Because that's part of it too, is that most of his fans, like most of his female fans in particular, don't give a fuck about the Kendrick and Drake beef. They really and truly don't. And even his casual fan, like casual male fans, don't really care about Drake and Kendrick beef. They just don't. There's like other things for them to like care about, which is like basically getting hoes. Basically, it's like kind of like the vibe for most Drake male fans. It's about getting money and getting bitches. That's basically it. And so if you're out here trying to get money and get bitches, and you're Drake, or you're a Drake fan, you don't really care about what Kendrick Lamar thinks about Drake's clothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just not a thing. It just doesn't line up. And it's like Drake, this is one thing I actually do admire about Drake, is the fact that he is a student of hip hop, though. Like, dude actually really does care about hip hop quite a bit. To the point where it's like, when it comes to Drake, and it comes to like Drake's like passion for hip hop, like Drake is actually one of the most passionate people in hip hop. I truly believe that Drake is actually like super passionate about being a hip hop artist. He really cares about hip hop. He grew up with hip hop inspiring him to be great. And I think that's where he feels offended. I think this is where Drake gets kind of like befuddled, because he's like, I put so much into hip hop. I put so many people on. I got the cosigns. I did everything right, which he did. Drake did everything right, at least according to the standards that we set for hip hop artists to be successful. Drake did everything right. So why does he feel like he's in this position where he has to like continue to prove himself to the true culture of hip hop? And it's because the true culture of hip hop at some point in time looked at Drake and was like, you're not representing us in the way that we need to be represented. And that kind of goes back to the previous topic about, snitch culture and just like representing the community and like the raw like elements of hip hop, like the things that make hip hop really real, that Kendrick Lamar does a better job of representing slightly than Drake. Drake is a Canadian rapper that has basically taken American culture and used it for his own gain. It's very rare that he puts money back into the culture. Now, he might put artists on, but he's also making money off of those artists. It's very rare that you see Drake do an altruistic effort to be like, hey, this is for the community that I love and respect, that has shown me so much love and respect. He's over here doing interviews with Bobby Altoff or whatever her name is, instead of like Funk or Charlemagne or these other people who are deeply ingrained in the hip hop culture. Bobby Altoff can't rap. I like some of her fucking videos, but she can't rap. You see what I'm saying? Like, and it's like Drake's over here being mad, like, oh well, you know, round 2, I'm gonna go back in, Iceman. And it's like, dude, you still haven't like gotten the message. You still haven't gotten the message of what Kendrick was trying to expose about you. The fact that you don't care about the culture in the way that you need it to be cared about. You care about the culture in the sense that you want to become a famous rap star and you want to benefit off it, which you have immensely over the last decade plus. But in terms of putting it back into the community and showing that love and respect that the community needs, which is getting more and more rare, by the way, more and more rare. I mean, there are moments, I look at what Nas is doing with Mass Appeal, where he's bringing back all these old rappers, Slick Rick, Ghostface, etc., so forth. That's for the culture. That's not for the bag. That's not for the clout. That's not for the fame. He's doing that because we need that as hip-hop fans, the same hip-hop fan that you claim to be. And I'm not saying you need to go and resurrect old rappers and put them on OVO, but what I'm saying is that at some point in time, we've lost the feeling of you being a true supporter of the hip-hop community. And then you want to go back in with Kendrick, allegedly. We'll see what happens in the next couple hours. Why? It's like you didn't get the message. And it's really frustrating because I like a lot of Drake's songs. I actually fuck with Drake heavy. And even like I said earlier, I like Family Matters. I like what Drake did in the beef with Kendrick. And in a different setup and a different arrangement, he would have won the beef. But it just didn't work out that way. But he's so butthurt about it. We're like, it's just very off-putting. It's very off-putting. But I digress. There's plenty more things to talk about. A lot of new music coming out. Justin Bieber apparently is going right the hell back in. He just dropped his album Swag like a month and a half ago, and he's dropping another album tonight. Now, I haven't even listened to Swag. I listened to a couple songs, but I haven't listened to the album front to back. I'm not really a Justin Bieber fan, so I'm probably not going to listen to Swag 2. But him and Tyler, the Creator, are kind of trying to tell us something right now. And that's the fact that volume really matters now. Having the more, like, our attention spans are getting shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. I've been sitting here watching my kick numbers go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 2 to 1 to 2 to 3 to 1 to 2 because I get it. I'm not over here playing Subway Surfers or saying anything like extremely enticing. I'm not doing a dance move. I'm just talking to y'all. So the only people who are going to be invested in me are people who are really caring about what I have to say. But with that in mind, the culture is shifting so fast right now to where our attention spans are getting so much shorter and getting so much more volatile to where you have to stay on top of it. My homie Marley B, who's dropping his album tonight as well, Body of Work, go check that out. I think he's around 100,000 listeners on Spotify, which, by the way, listeners on Spotify are a vanity metric. You shouldn't live or die by those metrics. But what's interesting about that is that he made a post talking about how several years ago he had 1,000 and he was putting out a song just about every single month all the way up until this point. And it's crazy to think about, like, the volume of music you have to put out to get to the point where you have people actually interested into your content and they want to consume it just like, And it happens. There's definitely a tipping point. Speaking of tipping point, my boy Malcolm Gladwell just dropped a sequel to one of the most important books of my life, and that's The Tipping Point. The Tipping Point came out in like 2000. I think I read it like right before 9/11 hit. And that book completely changed my entire life and how I saw the world in terms of how to create movements and how to create moments and how to create buzz and create marketing. Like, it really blew up in my head, my whole gourd. And this man dropped a sequel, so I'm excited about that. The Tipping Point 2, The Revenge of Tipping Point is out. I'm actually listening to it right now, an audiobook. But understanding that in order for you to get fans, in order to get people on your side, there's tipping points. And if you're not on that tipping point yet, they're all just kind of waiting for that to happen, and they're gonna watch. They might check in on you, see what you're doing, maybe check your numbers. But if you're not on and blowing up all over the place, most people don't give a fuck. And it's sad because I know a lot of independent artists work hard to get out there and get heard and get seen. But at the same time, it's you have to stay constant. You have to be posting a lot of content. You have to be posting your songs. You have to turn yourself into a marketing machine just to get people interested. And then once you have people interested, you got to hold them there. You got to hold them there with more content, more music, more whatever the hell you're trying to do. And it's kind of like that forever until the end of time, until you die. Sorry, but that's what you get when you want to be an artist. Like that's it. Like I realized this a long time ago, and as I said at the start of this video, I'm terrible at my consistency. I'm trying to be better about it, but the reason why I'm not as consistent is because I have so many things going on. I'm working on movies, I'm working on albums, I'm writing stories, I'm going live on multiple streaming channels. Like I'm also a father, I also a husband, I also have like a whole business that I run. So like my time management skills could be a little bit better, but I do know that like I seem to make the most progress in my career is like when I'm consistent. If I like one thing that I've noticed, like even like the 30-day challenge on TikTok, like if you just post 30 days, you'll get some new fans, you'll get some people. It just works. And so that concept of just being all up in people's faces on nonstop forever and forever and ever, that's just like the new life of the artist. And you got AI kind of competing for your slot right now because people can make content so quickly now with AI. So it's like, you really got to choose your battles here, man. You really got to decide what you're really trying to fight for here when it comes to like how you want to be seen. Because part of it too is the idea that like, just because you are telling a story doesn't mean that people want to hear it. Like your story might be trash, fam. It might be something that's like, I just don't want to hear the story, right? And so you got to think about like how you want your story to be heard, the audience that needs to hear it, and then attacking that audience nonstop with just content. It's frustrating. But that's even why I'm doing this video right now. As soon as I'm done with this video, which I've been recording on my computer, I'm going to throw it in the Opus, I'm going to cut in the clips, and I'm going to post it on my social media. That gives me like a bunch of content. But we're living in crazy times because of the fact that as attention spans get shorter and as people are able to make their own content now with AI, we're reaching this really weird thing where a lot of garbage is coming out. A lot of garbage music, a lot of garbage movie, a lot of AI slop is hitting the streets right now because we just want more content. And it makes you think about COVID. So when COVID hit, remember when everyone was like, oh, we're running out of movies and TV? Remember that? Like it was like, oh, like because the studios are enclosed and we didn't like backlog anything, like we're running out of content to put out. So there was like a content shortage for a moment. And now it's like, you can make content with a snap of your fingers, but is it good? Is it good though? And the answer is typically no. Because people don't know story theory, people don't know how to tell stories, people don't know how to keep people engaged. And it's almost kind of reminds me of like MySpace, when MySpace first came out and everybody started coding and doing HTML code without even realizing it. They just wanted sparkles on their page. That's kind of what's happening with content creation right now, is that like everybody wants to make content, everybody wants to get these monetizations and these streams, not realizing that like you're actually learning marketing and you're learning how to like be a storyteller. If you want to actually make money on these things, you have to be a storyteller. So that's really interesting because I think the future is going to lead to better storytelling and maybe better ease of access, but there's still going to be a whole bunch of slop to get through. I don't know. I would love to know what you guys think. I'm going to actually go ahead and get out of here because I want to make these episodes about 30, 40 minutes, I think is my sweet spot before I start getting all antsy. And we're at 38 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and chill out right now. With that said, I think there's a big chunk of this episode missing recording. But the replay will be up on my YouTube channel. Make sure you guys like, follow, share at Jaron Ikner on Twitter or on YouTube or on whatever. Just Google my name, bitches, and it will pop up. With that said, I appreciate you guys watching the Jaron Ikner Show. We will see you soon. And, I should have actually been paying more attention to this over here. But it's all good. Yeah, I'll see you all soon. And there'll be another episode as soon as I get my consistency up. Whenever that may be. Love y'all. Stay safe. Peace. Oh, we're still here on YouTube. Oh. You guys get the bonus footage. The bonus footage. This is bonus. Okay, bye. Oh, bye.